is Sherry Rikus, and I am co-founder of Rappaport Rikus Capital Management. And I'd like to welcome you here this evening for Smart Money Habits. Rappaport Rikus Capital Management, we offer financial planning and investment management. We decided to do this seminar again on a webinar. First of all, we figured it was a good time to do it. Hopefully you guys had the time and you did. We had a great attendance. But Liz and I did this a few years ago, and it was well received. And secondly, both of my two children and Liz's children are both on the line. Thanks for coming. Thanks for getting your friends, guys. And it's not often that we get to talk for 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, and they listen. So Liz and I are pleased that we're going to be talking tonight and sharing a lot of smart money habits. So I'd like to, first of all, introduce Liz Zilis. She's Senior Vice President of Rappaport Rikus Capital Management. And I'd also like to introduce Wendy Greco. She's the woman that made this all possible. Thank you, Wendy. And there is a Q&A on the bottom of the screen. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them down throughout the presentation. We're going to answer them at the end, and Wendy will give us the questions. Also, if you liked what you heard tonight, we're just scratching the surface, but our partner and co-founder Dave Rappaport will be having an investment basics where we'll dive much deeper to investments on May 21st, and we'll send you the information on that as well. So now I'd like to turn it over to Liz to begin Smart Money Habits. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sherry, and welcome everybody. Of course, the first reason we're doing this is to have the undivided attention of our kids, which is actually through this pandemic, it's actually been more common than it had in the past, but that's the first thing. The second thing is, we've been in this business for a long time, and even though some of the things we're going to talk to you about tonight are pretty basic, we have learned over the years that a lot of young adults have never been taught this, certainly not in school. If they have parents who are fiscally minded, maybe. So for some of you, some of this may be a little bit of a repeat, but we hope at least that we'll keep your attention and you guys will leave here tonight learning something. So we're going to kick it off. As an investment advisory firm, we do a lot of research. And funnily enough, for tonight's workshop, we did some research on something you probably would never guess, and that's attention span. So we're going to kick it off with our first poll of the night. And you guys, it's an interactive poll, so we want you to vote. How many minutes do you think it'll take for most of you to lose interest in what Sherry and I are talking about tonight? So we'll give you a couple seconds to vote. These are your choices: 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or 30 minutes. Okay, have we all voted? Okay, look at that. Most of you think 15 minutes. Good guess, guys. So let's go to the next slide. So after 2 minutes, 10% of you are not going to be listening to me anymore. After 10 minutes, I'm going to lose half of you. And guess how long it's going to take for me to lose most of you? 15 minutes, 80% of you, ding, 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 ding. You guys did a good job on that one. So we are going to do our best to keep you engaged for 30 minutes. But how about, what do you guys think, what are you guys thinking about when you stop listening to what we're saying? About 10% of you are thinking about this new work from home thing. And for those of you who are still in school, maybe finals. 10% of you are also thinking of your next snack or your next meal. I know most of you probably had dinner already, so it must be the next snack. I know this quarantine is just all about food, food, food. But the majority of you are thinking about the new show, Too Hot to Handle. I have to be honest with you, I've never seen it, but it looks pretty provocative, and I can't promise you this conversation tonight's going to be nearly as provocative, but hopefully you'll find it interesting and engaging. So on to the business of things. We're going to start with job search essentials. So the first item when you're looking for a job is your resume. So We know that most of you probably already have a resume in place, but we are going to encourage you that it's good to have it in place, but make sure at all times it's updated. Don't wait until a new opportunity or the best job you've ever seen comes across your desk. Make sure to always keep an updated resume. The other thing is, if you're already working and have been in the workforce for a couple of years, there's something called a professional resume. And that is more of specifics of what you're doing in your current job, projects that you've worked on. Make sure you keep that up to date as well, because again, most likely you're not going to be staying in the job you're in right now for the rest of your life. So you just want to make sure that you have all of that information at your fingertips. The second item on a resume is to review it. We've been in this business a long time and we've seen a lot of things. And we can tell you that we have had resumes that cross our desk with typos, mistakes, grammatical errors. It's really not a good first impression. It's not a good any impression, but definitely not a good first impression. So make sure, and we know you guys all use spell check, but it's not always 100% accurate. So have you review it and make sure you have another set of eyes review it as well before you send it out. And then the next step is to send it out. And in this day and age, it's really easy to send out hundreds and hundreds of resumes electronically. I mean, hopefully you're not having to send out hundreds of resumes to secure a job, but you could. But the important thing is not to just send it. You need to follow up, because these companies are receiving dozens and dozens, hundreds and hundreds of these resumes, and you need to set yourself apart. So you need to follow up with an email just to make sure that they received it and everything is in good order. For those of you who are still in college, don't poo-poo the school resources. A lot of these colleges have terrific departments where you can go to get help with your resume, job search, all of that. Networking is one of those lifelong skills. You need to learn it while you're young. It is definitely the way you get ahead in this world. So don't be afraid to network with anyone and everyone that comes into your life. It could be people of your own age, older people, your parents' friends. It's a really important thing to learn when you're young. Guessing that a majority of you are already on LinkedIn. If you're not, it's definitely a platform that you should be on. And it's really important, the same way you keep your resume current, make sure you keep your profile current on that. It doesn't really matter if you haven't had, quote, a real job. You've had experience, and that's enough to go on to LinkedIn. Make sure the picture you put on there is professional, definitely not one you take from your Instagram or Facebook. Leave those for other things. Make sure that's professional. And again, it's all about connecting with as many people as you can. Networking, connecting, that is the key. Thank you notes. That may be sort of an archaic concept for people. In our day and age, it was all about thank you notes, but it's really a nice touch. And so after you have spoken to somebody who's helping you, you've met with somebody personally, make sure you send a thank you. It can be electronic, it can be handwritten, but just make sure to say thank you. Practicing interviewing, so important. Even if it's your 10th interview, you should not go in cold. You should practice either in front of a mirror or in front of a family member or a friend or a roommate or a significant other. But practice is the key. And make sure you research the company that you're interviewing with. You don't want to show up and know absolutely nothing about the company or the industry, because it's going to show, and I can pretty much guarantee that is a job you will not be getting. Clean up your social media. So I really don't want to sound like your parents, even though I am parents of 2 people on this call, but you really have to be careful about this. This is just one example of something that happened several years ago. An Atlanta Braves pitcher by the name of Sean Newcomb pitched the game of his life. He lost a no-hit bid with 2 outs in the ninth inning. So simultaneously, though, in the news, there was a report about 3 tweets from years before this, when he was in high school, that were racially driven. So instead of this being the greatest day of his life, it ended up being the most controversial day of his life. So just don't even allow it to happen. Just clean up your social media. Just never post anything that you're going to regret later. Don't be that picky for your first job. Just get started. It's, right now is not the best time to be looking for jobs. If something comes across your, plate, just go for it. It's not going to be something you're going to be in for the next 50 years. And you just need to get started somewhere. So just don't be that selective. The job offer, very exciting. We hope you get more than one job offer in your search. Understanding your total compensation. So the most important thing with this is the salary. That's what everyone focuses on. And while that is obviously very important, you also have to keep in mind these other things below it. So some of these jobs offers may come with bonuses. They may not be guaranteed, but they may be sporadic, but you need to keep that in mind as far as your total compensation is concerned. Your 401k, eligibility, and match. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because Sherry is in the second part of the presentation, but this is a huge, huge part of your total compensation. Health insurance, also a really important part. Private insurance, some of your parents could tell you, is so incredibly expensive. If you start a new job, you take their health insurance, you get good coverage, and while you think it's going to cost a lot of money, in the scheme of things, it's not. Some of these offers may provide a signing bonus, have a health savings account, which is a discussion for another day, but it is part of your total compensation. Another thing you have to keep in mind is paid time off, sick days, flexibility on working from home, which we all have that flexibility right now, but that probably will not be around forever. Retail, travel discounts, health clubs, all those things add up. So you have to look at your total compensation and not just the salary piece of it. Hey, where did all the money go? So I've been in the workforce now for 30 years. I know that's hard to believe because I don't look that old, but truthfully, I have. And it still kills me every time I open up my quarterly paycheck and I think I'm making X and nope, I'm making Y. So your gross salary is what you think you're going to deposit in your bank. But really, that's not true, because what comes out of that gross salary are federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and health insurance. Additionally, retirement contributions, hopefully for those of you that are able to contribute to your 401k. That's a good thing that's coming out. That's just going from one pocket into another bucket. The others, you have no choice, so just get used to it. Give yourself credit. So it's really, really important for you as young adults to establish strong credit as soon as you can. So for those of you who have not already done this, we highly recommend you opening a credit card in your own name, because that is the only way that you will be able to start establishing your own credit. Credit cards for the majority of the world are used just as that, credit cards, where they are using it to borrow money and not pay off their balance in full. That is a no-no. You must pay off your balance monthly. This is just a convenience, because you guys don't even really know what cash is because you've never used cash for anything, but you must pay off your balance monthly. It is so important. Additionally, make sure you set up automatic payment for all your monthly bills, especially your credit card, but every bill. You don't want to have a busy month, forget that, because that is exactly what goes to establishing not such good credit. And we also urge you to check your credit report annually at annualcreditreport.com, because you'd be surprised. You may think you have the best credit in the world, and you go on this and there's some obscure thing that has nothing to do with you. Well, everyone else doesn't know it doesn't have to do with you. So you need to work on getting that removed. So just when you're changing your smoke alarms in your house, just remember to check your annualcreditreport.com. We're on to poll number 2. How many of you have an executed healthcare power of attorney? So how many of you have that? Yes, no, or don't even know what it is? Give you a couple minutes. Look at that. 58% of you don't even know what it is. Terrific. So I think you guys are going to be listening to this next slide, because since you don't know what it is. So basically, a healthcare power of attorney is a health directive. We hope you never have to use it, but it is a necessity to have this because it speaks for you when you are unable to speak for yourself. For this discussion, we are going to implore you and your parents to make sure that they have a healthcare power of attorney for you. We have heard so many stories of clients whose kids were in the hospital when they were in college, and the parents would call and the hospital would not release any information. Personally, more recently, and not as serious, my son Ben was at he was in a medical clinic up in Ann Arbor back in November, and we kept getting this bill over and over again for a service that wasn't provided. And so finally I picked up the phone, I called the clinic, and I figured I would just talk to the billing department and they would just answer my question. Nope, they wouldn't give me any information. But guess what? I had Ben's healthcare power of attorney on my phone. So I texted it to the clinic and they provided me the information. So a healthcare power of attorney can be found online. There's an Illinois one, there's one for every state. And basically you need to sign it, your parents need to sign it, then you each need to keep a copy of it electronically on your phone. You need to keep a hard copy of it as well. And I even sent mine when my kids, well, Ben is still in college, but I sent mine to the University of Michigan healthcare department, so they would just have it on file. So you can't have it in enough places, and it is a really, really vital, important document to have. In case of emergency. So insurance, we could do a whole webinar on insurance, but for this discussion, we're going to just talk very briefly about 3 different ones that are really important for young adults. First of all, if you're driving a car, you need to have car insurance. I know that sounds obvious, but you need to have car insurance. Secondly, health insurance, which we touched upon. So either you need to stay on your parents' health insurance, which you can do until age 25, or when you get your job, you sign up for their health insurance. And lastly, renter's insurance. In some cases, rental apartments do require it, but in others, they don't. And we highly recommend you get it because you just don't want something to go wrong. And it's not that expensive to have it, but it's really good coverage to have. Review all your statements. It's really important. You know, most of you are getting all your statements these days electronically, which is great because we want to save paper, save the world. But definitely make sure you're reviewing your statements at least monthly. I mean, you could also be like me who checks their accounts, their bank accounts, their investment accounts every single day. You don't have to do that, but definitely check them regularly. Keep your information confidential. Cannot stress that enough. You know, we as a investment advisory firm, we can't send any information out to our clients without it being on a secure link or password protected. But that's because that's what we do. But if you guys are just sending something or just registering for something or signing up for something, make sure you do it securely and keep it confidential. You just can never put your social security number in a text or in an email. Have a backup credit card. I know that sort of sounds obvious, but it really isn't. And we've seen many situations where some of our kids got their either pickpocketed or stolen or lost or the dog ate it or whatever the case may be. Just make sure you have an extra one because you never want to be in a situation where you don't have a card that you can use in an emergency situation. Watch out for fraud alerts. Also sort of sounds obvious, but in this day and age, we're getting so many of these and there's so much phishing going on these days. You have to be careful that these fraud alerts themselves aren't fraudulent. So don't press on anything that you're unsure about, but do be mindful of ones that come in from your credit card or things that you know that you could possibly have been, fraudulent on. So just watch those. And just all of this goes back to being smart online. You just need to be smart online in every aspect of your life. And now I'm going to hand the baton over to Sherry to finish up our seminar for the night.
Great. Thanks, Liz. So one of the questions we get all the time is how much should I spend and how do I budget? So one of the first lessons is you should budget. There's Quicken, there's money. But if you don't have access to that, I'm going to give you a few simple rules. So the question is, how much should I spend? There's three major categories. There's your basics, your fun stuff, and your savings. So let's look at the first category. This is your basics. Your basics are what I call kind of turn on the light bulb. That's your rent, your utilities, your cable, your groceries, any transportation. And I do have a big basic here, you know, flowers for your mom's birthday. Won't push you over, but that's a basic too. So we have a poll right now. Poll number 3. What % of your net income should be allocated to basics? 30%, 40%, 50%, or 60%? And remember, that's your net paycheck and it's allocated to all your basics. The answer, please. A lot of you said 50%, and actually 50% is the right number. But unfortunately, this gentleman here spent a little more than 50%. He couldn't afford furniture or anything else. So 50% is the number. So let's look at the next category. We call this the fun stuff. So this is all the things that you enjoy doing or you want to spend your money on. And this should be 30% of your net pay. Now, the fun stuff, we all want to have a lot of this, the dining out, the entertainment, the vacations, the looking good. Okay, Mother's Day brunch, it's coming up. My kids are online. Joe Stone would be perfect, but no pressure here at all. But 30% doesn't go very far. So you really have to look at your values, look at what's important to you, and decide how you're going to allocate the fun stuff. The next category is 20%, and that should go towards saving, paying down debt, and it's never too early to start allocating some money to charity. So we're going to talk a little bit later about the 401k and setting up a rainy day fund. You can allocate some money for specific long-term savings, but this is really important. If you do have debt, and as Liz mentioned, credit card debt, that should be the first debt you pay off. But if you have car loans and student loans and other debt, you should look at the debt and see what is the highest interest rate, and that should be paid off first. So budgeting is so important. This is really going to give you peace of mind if you can take your net pay and budget it. And we call it the 50-30-20% rule. 50% for basics, 30% for fun, and 20% for savings, debt, and charity. Now, sometimes rent might be more and your basics may go to 55, 60%. If it does, then you need to reduce some of the other categories. So that's all on budgeting. So let's talk about stocks, bonds, and cash. And as I mentioned, we are just going to scratch the surface here. And Dave Rappaport's going to have an in-depth webinar all about stocks, bonds, and investing. But I'm just going to get you started here. And on May 21st, you can come to that webinar. But let's start at the beginning. Stocks is purchasing a share of a company. So that would be buying a share of Apple or Amazon. Stocks are great. They're your highest risk, but also your highest return. We've seen stocks go up 80%. We've seen them go up 200%. And we've seen them go down 100%, down to zero. So anytime you invest in stocks, you have to be willing to take the risk and have a long-term horizon. Bonds are your much more stable entity. That's borrowing money to the government, to a company. It's lower risk and lower return, but it's much more stable. And cash is the stable of them all. That's money that you just keep in your saving, your rainy day fund, money that you put in your money market. So we hear a lot on the news, and I'm sure a lot of you have been hearing, the stock market was down 25-30% from its high. So you might be sitting here right now saying, boy, do I really need to start investing now? My short answer is 3 letters, yes, and let me show you why. So we have another poll here. If you invested $1 in global stocks, so that's the stock market that included US and international stocks, You put $1 in 1970. How much would that dollar be worth today? So that's a 50-year period. Do you think that $1 would be worth $18, $46, $69, or $83? And everyone cast your vote. And the answer, please? Guess we have a few more people voting. Well, 45% said 69 and 36% said 83. So you guys were actually right on target. $1 in 1970 would be worth $69 today. That's 50 years. Think about it. You put $1,000 in investments, it'd be worth $69,000 when you retire. And that didn't go in a straight line. I'm going to try something here. A little risky here, but I'm going to try it. But in 1973 and 74, the S&P or the US stock market was down 43%. So you lost a lot of money right off the bat starting in 1970. We had Black Monday down 23%. We had the dot-com crash. Market was down, if you had tech stocks, 50, 60%. We had the debt crisis here not too long ago, 2008, down 46%. But with all these ups and downs, $1 still earned $69 today. So if the answer is, should I start investing? The answer is yes. I have another chart I love here. This is my new favorite chart. And we've been showing this a lot to clients because the market went down over 20, like I said, 20, 30%. But I'll use my little laser again. But this takes all the time that the market, and this is just the S&P 500, the US market, went down more than 10%. We call that a bear market, and that's the red. Now, fortunately, bull markets are blue. Those are good markets. There's a lot more bull markets than bear markets, so that's fortunate to be a financial advisor. But there are times that are very tough. The last one was in 08, and you're starting to see it right here, and it hasn't even finished, but it would go all the way down to here. But what you see is after every down market, it's followed by good markets. So you need to really have patience and have a long-term view. So hopefully you're all sitting there thinking, wow, yep, I should start investing. So how do I begin? Where do I start? Well, the first place to start for most of you is your retirement accounts. A retirement account is a long-term investment vehicle really for your future. So when you started your job, you probably got a big packet, and one of the items on that big packet was your 401k. Do you want to be part of the 401k plan? So there's 3 big decisions when you want to be part of the 401k. First of all, you might be looking at, and what is a 401k plan? Well, it's an intense tax code that was drawn up a long time ago, and my husband, who was a tax attorney, if I had him on here, he could spend a half hour explaining it, but I'm going to give it to you in one sentence. It was established to encourage long-term savings. So that's what your 401k is. And you really need to keep the money in there long-term because there can be penalties to take it out early. So the first decision you have is, should I participate? Yes. And if you should, how much should you put in? Well, you should try to put in as much as you can to satisfy all your other budgetary requirements and obligations, but there's something called a company match right here. And what this company match is often to encourage employees to add money to their 401k, they will match a certain percentage. Often we see for every percent you put in, they'll match up to 0.5%, up to 2%. That 2% is free money. So at a minimum, if that's the match, you should put at least 4% in. But you can put in as much as you can afford. So that's decision number 1. Decision number 2 is, should I put the money in a 401k IRA, or should I put it in a 401k Roth IRA? There's advantages and disadvantages of both. The 401k IRA, you get a tax deduction this year. It grows what's called tax deferred, but when you turn 72, you have to take the money out and you pay taxes. The Roth IRA, you don't get a deduction in this year, but it grows tax-free. Remember that dollar in 1970? When you retired 50 years later, that $69 of growth would be tax-free and you'd never pay taxes. Now there's income limits to Roth. So I know we've got a bunch of superstars on this call. So at some point you won't be eligible for a Roth. So it's something you should really consider when looking at your options of investing in a Roth. So I bet I got some people sitting on the line right now saying, Sherry, I get it. I want to invest, but I'm not working right now. I don't have a 401k. Well, you're in luck because there's another vehicle that you can open, which is a regular IRA or a Roth IRA. And 401k, the limit is $19,500, but IRAs and Roths are $6,000. So let's say that you were a camp counselor and you earned $1,500. You could put that $1,500 in a Roth IRA and it would grow tax-free for the rest of your life. Pretty good deal. Try to take advantage of it and I would encourage it. The third decision, so how much should you put in your 401k? Should you have a 401k Roth or IRA? And then it's the investment decision. And you're often given a piece of paper with about 30 different funds, and you have to decide which fund to put it in. Again, Dave's going to go into this in much more detail in the next one, but if you remember three words, it's called target date fund. This is a fund that's often offered through most 401k plans, and you pick a date based on how many years you have to retirement. The fund is low cost, fully diversified, and it's targeted for what is beneficial for your investment strategy. So when you're younger, you'll see the blue, this is equity. It has much more risk, a lot more return. And as you get older, there's more cash, more bonds, and less equity. So target funds are a great investment to have. So what if you're fortunate and you have excess money? Well, you've already put money in the 401k, taken advantage of the match, but you should start something called a rainy day or emergency fund. You want to have a little extra money in the bank because we're seeing right now, unfortunately, a lot of employees are having reduction in their pay, reduction of hours. Some are even losing their jobs. So you want to have that rainy day fund. You may have a goal that you're looking for, buying a condo, buying a car, vacation, but with that money, no stocks, put it in cash, keep it strong, keep it stable. So you've invested in your 401k, you've got your rainy day fund, you're saving for the condo. You're my idol here, my investment idol. You might have some extra fund to put in long-term investments. That's where you can take that money long-term and use stocks and bonds to diversify that. So that's on investment accounts and retirement planning. There's two things that can really ruin an investment plan. You can have the best intentions, you put the money away, you put in the target fund, at the end of February, you got your statement, you're feeling pretty good here. You've got elation, you're all excited, you were optimistic, you put the money in. But what happened March 31st? You got a little nervous. What happened April 20th, May 10th? Well, we're not there yet, but a little fear. But don't worry, the cycle will continue. At some point, things will turn around and you'll have optimism again. And when I look at this, I kind of think of that first crush you may have had. You know, you're all excited about the first crush, everything's going well, and then your friend Joan tells you that Mark doesn't like you anymore. You get nervous, fearful, but that's okay. You either find someone else or Mark ends up liking you again, but the cycle will continue. So manage your emotions. It's extremely hard to do. We spend a lot of our day talking to our clients and managing the emotions. Another factor that can often ruin a great investment strategy, and that's the media. The media is on to sell TV ads, they're to sell newspapers. This was from a couple years ago, and the media, housing market booming. Well, look what's happening today. Dow dives 500. They could put that many days that happens. tech funds on the rise? No, they're not. So I would say listen to the media, but keep your wits about you, have a discipline, and have a long-term strategy. So I don't want to leave this session today without looking at some of the mistakes that we see. And we truly, truly want you to avoid these mistakes. We want you to have peace of mind. We want you to enjoy your life and know that your finances are in good shape. So the first mistake we see, and I'd mentioned this budgeting, the 50, 30, 20, call me after, love to talk about it. My brother loves to talk about it. We're budget busters here, but living outside your means will ruin any plans that you have. And this is not a typo. I have it twice because this is so important when you're starting out. Don't live outside your means. Waiting till blank to start investing. Remember that dollar turned 69? Let's wait till I get a raise. Let me wait till I get my bonus. Let me wait till I get my haircut. Whatever the excuse is, start investing now. I'm not going to mention this too many times, but don't miss out on that 401k match. Don't be late with your payments. Make sure you pay attention to all the benefits and the health insurance because there may be some things you're missing. And please keep your personal information secure. So we have our final poll here. And I bet a lot of you came on the line here and you were hoping to get some great investment tip or maybe a stock to buy. So this is when you're getting this right now. So the 30 minutes, 35 minutes you gave it will be all worth your while. So the poll is, let's see the answers. What's going to be the best investment for 2020? Is it Bitcoin, Apple, keeping your money in cash, or other? So Bitcoin, Apple, keeping your money cash, and other. And the answer, please? Well, 51% said other, 12% Bitcoin, 20% cash, and 17% Apple. And the answer was other. The best investment you can make is to invest in yourself. Take care of the peace of mind, avoid all the mistakes we discussed about, but think about what brings you joy. You work hard, you have money, allocate that money. And my dad, Dan Greco, used to say, you can have anything you want, not everything. My kids are so sick of me saying that. But remember that. You can have anything you want, not everything. So pick and choose. And we have a slogan and a tagline we have at our firm. It's just not maximizing your return on investments, but we want to help our clients maximize their return on life. So once again, on behalf of Liz and Wendy and my other partners at Rappaport Rikers Capital Management, and I would like to thank you for coming. I hope you learned something. And I think we have a few minutes for questions. So Wendy, do we have any questions?
We do. We have a few questions. The first one says, how much money should you have in savings and or checking account before you start investing?
Yeah, I mean, probably
Sure, you take it.
At least 3 to 6 months worth of expenses because you want to just have that safety net. You could possibly have a year, but you know, you can simultaneously save for that rainy day fund, but again, at least take advantage of the match in your 401k.
Right. So to clarify, that's savings. That saving your 401k for sure, no matter what, as long as you can pay your bills. But don't include that in the 3 to 6 months that you need to have in your savings, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because that's long-term money.
Yep.
Okay, another question was, at what income level are you no longer eligible for a Roth 401k?
So I answered that question in the chat, and I wrote, I meant to write above 124,000. So 124,000 for a single filing tax payer. So, you know, if some of you are making over that, terrific. You can't contribute.
It actually phases out a touch. You can go up to, I think, 135, but you don't get the full benefit.
Yeah, so.
Okay. And then another question was, what bucket would you associate investments in 401k to? Basics, fun stuff, or savings?
Savings.
Savings. long-term savings.
Okay.
Good
We're
question,
we're
guys.
getting
These
a
are
lot
good
of questions.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a bunch more coming in. How should COVID-19 be affecting how we manage our money, given it's going to be a while till normalcy?
So that's a really good question, and we get that question from our clients every minute of every day. So we are strong advocates of long-term investing, and we are actually using this opportunity when the market has been down as a buying opportunity. We have told our clients until we are blue in the face that they need to just hang on, ride this out, because the plans that we put in place for our clients and the plans that you guys should be starting out with are long-term plans. We understand that for some of you, you may want to have, and we tell our clients this too, maybe some play money, to buy maybe, things that we are not going to recommend to you. But in general, if you put this plan in place, you need to stick with it in the good and in the bad. So, it feels really bad right now for a lot of people, but if you are a believer that that dollar is going to turn into $69, which again, that's history. It's a fact that it happened. You need to just ride out this roller coaster.
And if you guys are investing in your 401k, you're doing that every other week. So you're long-term investors. The down market's great for you because you're buying in at some lower prices.
Okay. How do you choose which companies to invest in if you don't follow the markets closely?
That is a very long answer. We believe in a term called indexing, but why don't you come May 21st and Dave will dive deep into that. I don't think we can answer that in a few minutes on this call, but that is a great question.
The only thing that I will put in to contribute to that is we believe in owning the haystacks and not trying to find the needles. You guys could think a little bit about that and then tune in on May 21st and you'll understand exactly what that means.
Okay, do we have time for a couple more? And then if we don't get to everything, we can look through some of the questions and provide additional answers.
And we did say this would end at 8:45 and we'll try to be timely, but if people want to stay on, we're happy to answer a few more questions. But if you need to leave, thank you again for coming. We really appreciate it.
All right, if a summer internship gives the opportunity to invest in a 401k, does it make sense to do it?
Yes, it's never too early to start investing. And you can roll that 401k into an IRA, and then that will continue to grow for a long period of time.
Okay. In terms of
great questions.
I know they're very good questions, and there's a lot of great questions. In terms of investing, if you want to invest in property, knowing that the market fluctuates, is it still a smart move, investing in property?
Property like real estate?
I'm guessing that.
Okay, real estate. I just asked the question into the air. Sorry about that. Yeah, so that is not our expertise, but investing in real estate when the market is down is the same concept as investing in the market when the market is down. If that's something that is of interest to you, it certainly contributes to a diversified portfolio, which is something that we are big fans of.
And we also have, as part of our investment strategy, something called REITs, Real Estate Investment Trusts, which invests in office parks, retail centers. So that gives you another exposure. And what we find with REITs, or real estate investment trusts, it moves differently than stocks or bonds. So it's another diversifier.
I think the next question says, what is your financial advice for people in graduate school / students in their mid-20s? What should graduate students do?
Learn to budget.
So learn to budget for sure. And we are definitely debt averse. And so if the question is, should I be paying my student loans off before I start investing? The answer to that would be yes.
Especially if they're high rates, unless you have some very, very good rates.
Okay. Can you share any thoughts on high yield savings accounts, i.e. Marcus?
So, we can either take a stab at it. Yeah. So high yield savings accounts are great. A great place to park cash. We highly recommend, seeking those out. There are actually several online money market accounts that you can keep your money in. And again, interest rates have come down significantly from where they are, but you can still get more than zero. And if you're keeping any significant amount of cash at Chase or Citibank in their checking account and even in their savings account, you're earning zero. So definitely look into those options, and they're fully liquid, and you can transfer money back and forth from the money markets to your checking account when you need it.
And also check with your bank, because they're not graciously just giving you the higher interest rate. You have to sometimes go in and see which vehicles will give you the higher rate.
Okay, and maybe
I think we have one more.
One more. Okay, what happens when you leave a job but your 401k is associated with that job? Do you need to do anything?
Great question. Go ahead, Sherry.
Yeah, I can. It's my area, so I'll take it. Yeah, with the 401k, I mean, you can leave it at the company, but when you're at a company, you're limited to choices. So most people would like to control the money. So you want to transfer it into an individual IRA, investment retirement account. You don't want to touch the money, which means you want it to go from your 401k directly to your IRA. Because if you take the money and you have it for more than 60 days, it becomes taxable event and you'd have to pay a lot of taxes. So just be very careful if you're leaving it from a 401k that it goes into an IRA, and whoever you're working with will make sure that that efficiently happens.
Okay.
Well, again, thank you. And we hope you learned something, and we hope to see you at our next event. And Liz, if you want to add anything at the end.
Thanks, everybody. It really, we hope that you found it informative. Again, as we started out, some of it may have been repetitive or basic, but I don't know. I've practiced this thing now several times, and I feel like I get something out of it each time. So we hope you did too. We probably will redo this at some point down the road for people who weren't able to join us tonight. But again, if any questions come up, please let us know. And as Sherry said, we are going to add you to our mailing list for upcoming webinars, and hopefully you'll be able to attend them. We intend to, this was our first one that we did, and we intend to roll out more, and hopefully you will spread the word and join us for future ones. But thank you so much, and you're now free to go watch Too Hot to Handle.
Oh, one more assignment. If there's any topic that you would have liked us to cover and you have a moment, just put it in the Q&A and we will add it to our list for the next one. So thanks again.
Thanks. Have a good night, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Yes, stay healthy. Thank you.